You have always argued that let's not blame COVID too much. I'm listening to you right now and you're talking about special situations from 2013 down through 2015, and you make reference to Taryn Berry, you make reference to the financial meltdown and all other issues that happen in the economy.
Yes.
In fact, that saw your government at the time even to also introduce certain taxes to help salvage the situation. Is it wrong for this government also to consider that, look, we have an issue and it's a global pandemic. Almost every nation in the world is suffering. So you can't go with cap in hand asking people to support you. You need to look inside the country and find the money to do it. Is it wrong for them to then introduce taxes and say, guys, we need to be able to save the situation?
I mean, you're making a point, and that's precisely my issue. No, not at all. I'm not blaming the government for resorting to
Taxation.
Because all our austerity measures.
Because you're a tax expert.
No, but I'm saying that it's even bigger than that. I'm saying that all our experience through austerity, management of austerity, if you like, the 18 or so IMF programs, have always used a combination of tax, right? Expenditure management, debt management, borrowing. That's a mix. And real sector rehabilitation, like the way the cocoa sector was rehabilitated after the bushfires, or the attempt to use the temporary badges, to resolve them so. Right. So these are the mix, a mix of revenue, expenditure, debt management, and the real sector, especially the real sector that is affected. In this case, under COVID, is going to be the tourism, and the hospitality sectors which suffered much. So that's not at all. What I'm pointing out is, therefore, with this history and with players in administration which had participated in past management of crisis, by the way, including the PNDC, some of them were in the PNDC era, I'm talking about ERP, SAP, for them to belittle the use of tax in resolving the global financial crisis, subsidy, ESLA, which, by the way, is a foundation for payment of energy costs, banking sector bailout costs through the ESLA bond. For them to have come into administration and made us believe that you can manage crisis without resort to taxation, creating some of the taxes, which have been on the books, ESLA, the temporary import duties, the stabilization, the fiscal stabilization, levy, the banking sector and all those, to creating them as nuisance taxes to make them seem irrelevant is my point.
But
that when my point that, when you present that type of solution as non-performance, as not being able to be innovative, and then you come, and no matter how severe the crisis, and despite loans, this is the first administration that had loans specifically targeting crisis, however severe it is. And then on top of all this, on top of the fortune of 3 oil fields and the rest, you now resort to more taxes than even was experienced. That is the point I'm making. But I think the lesson is that, for all of us as Ghanaians to appreciate that there are fiscal handles, right? The economy is fiscal management, financial monetary management, real sector management, basically. And therefore, if you want to resolve problems, I think the lesson I'm pointing out is that you would have to use a mix of measures from this to resolve.
Is it that they are ignoring using the mix and then focusing on one side, which then puts a lot of strain on the ordinary people?
Well, I didn't see much of expenditure management, but then, yes, maybe they've run out of options there. And the reason being that if you have a fiscal framework or output or performance which is using 126% of tax revenues to pay 2 items only, which is compensation
And interest.
And interest. Yes, you got it. You are already borrowing to pay those two items because your tax revenue, which is gross, is exceeded by 26%. And that is why I use tax revenue and I discount non-tax revenue, because then a non-tax revenue, I see it as using it to meet IGFs, DACF, what you call the earmarked funds. Otherwise, you would be talking about 70% of tax revenue compared to 126, percent. So, are you going to cut interest payments? No,
that's not possible.
Yeah.
Interest payment, when it's due, you must pay because these are borrowings that you have done.
Precisely. Otherwise, you default. And mind you, we are talking about interest. We are not talking about debt service.
Yes.
Which includes principal, amortization, or what you call or repayment.
Repayment, yeah.
So it means that even if your interest, which in the past was fully covered, within revenue margins, are now exceeded, your main revenue handle, which is taxation, then you have very little room, to cut.
So based on this argument,
excuse me, your capital is barely 2%. So in the past, that's discretionary. You could cut. As for money for servicing government offices, I really said about it not because it's around 1% or so.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that if you see the way the borrowing that we have been doing, much of it is going to consumption, not into investment.
This year, 5 billion is the target we're looking at.
5% borrowing, but let's be careful. The first is 3 billion.
Yes.
And markets permitting, you add 2 billion.
2 billion, yes.
Of the 3 billion, 1.5, half, is for refinancing.
Yes.
Or reprofiling, as it's being called, which is refinancing. And that is again borrowing to pay existing debt that has matured. And that is because we stopped paying down using the sinking fund, to pay down as we were doing. So you have only 1.5. And if you consider that 1.5, billion is about, let's say 6 billion Ghana cedis, approximately. Last year, when we did a bond, we spent 2.2 billion. At least that was what Parliament was told, for education, support of free SHS.
Free SHS, yes.
Yes. So already you can see where that borrowing is going, right? And it supported other, government, initiatives, which are predominantly, So what I'm saying is that you have very little room for maneuvering on the expenditure side.